We've got the Health Secretary joining us now from central London. Hello to you, Mr Hancock. Thanks for joining us this morning. It's a bit of a role reversal this morning, isn't it? It's normally that I'm in the studio and you're at home. But hey, let's give it a go, should we? The Prime Minister, how is he this morning? Is he well?
Yeah, he's well. He's absolutely full of beans. He was in close contact with Lee Anderson, the MP for Ashfield, last week. And when Lee Anderson felt a bit unwell, he applied for a test. He got that test result back within the same day. And of course, the same rules apply to all of us. And so the Prime Minister is self-isolating because he was asked to by NHS Test and Trace.
Sure. Same rules apply to all of us. Why are they not wearing masks in that photograph?
Well, they're socially distanced, and the critical thing is, of course, as Prime Minister, you do meet people, and he'll be, I've got no doubt, driving things forward this week by Zoom. But the thing is that when you are in close contact with somebody, then you do need to self-isolate if they test positive, and that's exactly what the Prime Minister's done.
You also need to wear a mask when you're in close contact with people, especially indoors, don't you? And they're not. And look what's happened.
Well, there are, of course, COVID-secure guidelines for how you operate at work, and this is true in Downing Street or in any other work environment. And then if you test positive, it's really good that the test result came back so quickly. That is now happening in the majority of cases, and that's good. We've brought those test turnaround times down. And then contact tracing, working effectively, got in contact with the Prime Minister. So this is how the system ought to operate. And then obviously both Lee Anderson and the Prime Minister following those rules. And in fact, you mentioned just on the bulletin then, we're expanding this testing capacity further. We've built 500,000 tests
We're going to come to that. No.
And we're going to more than double that.
Health Secretary, we're coming to that. We're coming to that. Why on earth are they not wearing a mask? As a result, our Prime Minister is incapacitated on what could be one of the most important weeks ever for Brexit. They should be wearing masks. You know that. I know that. Why are they not doing it?
Well, there's COVID-secure guidelines in any workplace, and what I'd say is actually, I've absolutely no doubt that the Prime Minister will be able to drive the agenda forward and communicate with the public in the way that he does normally, but just differently because it'll be by video conference and not face to face because he's self-isolating.
Okay, do you wear a mask when you're in number 10?
I see the Prime Minister. Well, the majority of times I see the Prime Minister, I see him by Zoom, actually. And that's effective because we can have the meeting and I can stay in my office and he stays in number 10. But I did see him. I saw him a couple of times last week before he saw Mr Anderson, for instance, in the House of Commons chamber where I was for PMQs last week. And masks are required outside of the chamber, but not in it. So there's COVID-secure guidelines in all workplaces.
OK. Do you wear a mask when you're in number 10, Health Secretary?
Not always, no, because the COVID-secure guidelines for that building don't require it at all times. Well, it's according to the rules that are set out for each workplace in the whole country. So different workplaces have different rules according to what is appropriate there. And you'll know that from your work and everybody else. One of the things that we've done is put in place those guidelines.
Health Secretary, my boss didn't nearly die from COVID-19. My boss is not in a position where he now has to self-isolate again for 2 weeks because he's coming into contact with somebody who's got COVID-19. I'm sure my viewers will make up their own minds this morning. You said that the Prime Minister will be able to do his job just as effectively. What if he needs to hop on the Eurostar and have a chat with our European friends, as you always call them? He can't do that. So his position is limited because they didn't wear a piece of cloth covering their face.
Well, firstly, it's Lord Frost who's gone to Brussels and is our chief negotiator. And I'm sure that if the Prime Minister needs to speak to anybody in Europe, then he'll be able to do that by Zoom or by one of many other different types of video conferencing that's available. So he will, I've absolutely no doubt, be driving forward the agenda in the way that he normally does. And there's a packed agenda, expanding the testing I've talked about, also driving forward the search for a vaccine. And you'll have heard the news this morning that we're starting the clinical trials of another vaccine here in the UK.
OK, let me drive the agenda this morning, Health Secretary, if you don't mind. We'll come to all of that. We're still talking about Brexit at the moment. Fishermen and farmers, some of those who had most hope to benefit from Brexit, are less and less likely to, unless there is a deal. Doesn't look, where we are at the moment, as if that deal is forthcoming, does it?
Well, as I say, Lord Frost is going to Brussels this week to work with the Europeans. I've absolutely no doubt that he is the best possible person to carry out these negotiations for this country. And our red lines haven't changed, and we're preparing for whatever the outcome is. Of course, our preference is to get a deal, and that is open to the Europeans if they choose to make the progress that's needed.
Yeah, President-elect Joe Biden is not a fan of Brexit. We need a deal with the US. If we don't get a deal with Europe, how are we going to placate him?
Well, actually, the relationship with President-elect Biden and the Prime Minister has started off very strongly on the front foot. The Prime Minister was the first European leader that the President-elect called, and we have very, very close ties that transcend any presidency between the countries, and very close interests. And I know that they talked about working together on climate change, a really important priority of the Prime Minister and of the President-elect. Working together, of course, tackling coronavirus together and how we can do that. And on a wide range of subjects, we have very close interests with the United States. And I know that the relationship between the President-elect and the Prime Minister started off on very much on the front foot.
OK. President Trump still hanging on in there. President-elect Biden has described him as an embarrassment, and it won't help his legacy. What do you think?
Well, I'm absolutely not going to get into the domestic politics of America. There's enough to be getting on with the domestic politics of the UK. But what we are doing is looking forward very much to working with the incoming Biden administration. As I said, on so many big topics where we need to work together, and where the agenda of this government, for instance, on climate change, with COP26 coming up next year, is so closely aligned with the agenda of the. It's important, you see. I'm completely comfortable with it.
We've done it. I'm sure we'll come back to it, and it's not really your brief, and we need to come on to your brief in just a second. I'm just checking whether you are completely comfortable with the way the leader of the free world is behaving himself over the last 48 hours particularly.
Well, I've got absolutely nothing to say about that. What I am doing is really looking forward, and we're very, very positive about the incoming Biden administration. For instance, on my area, he is committed to engaging with and reforming the international health system, the World Health Organization, rather than leaving it. I think that's really positive. That's the position the UK has taken throughout this. We need reform, but we need to be in there making those reforms rather than walking away. And so I'm really looking forward personally to working with the Biden administration too.
I'm surprised. Yeah. OK. I'm surprised that you have nothing to say about a president who is openly, via Twitter, stoking up hostility in his own country. But let me ask you about the vaccine rollout and mega labs. Let me put both of those into one. With both of them, I'm guessing, that means that Christmas is back on?
Well, we're absolutely working to make Christmas as normal as possible. In fact, we're working with the devolved administrations to try to get a set of rules, set of arrangements for Christmas that can work across the whole of the UK, because so many people have family in different parts of the UK. The expansion of testing may be able to help to deliver on that. In terms of the vaccine, obviously we're ready and working hard to roll out the vaccine. It will be a huge administrative challenge, and even if that comes through as fast as it possibly could, the majority of people we'd expect to be vaccinating in the new year, even if we do manage to make progress this year. But you've got to remember on the vaccine that we are not there yet. We don't yet have a vaccine signed off. So I understand the excitement and the hope value of the vaccine. It's really fantastic, but we are not there yet. But on testing, we are there. We're rolling out the mass testing right now. We're doubling the capacity of the labs over the next few months. We've got that 500,000 capacity, which we've built up from scratch, essentially built a British diagnostics industry. And as you can see from Lee Anderson, the MP for Ashfield, we now get those rapid turnaround times too for the majority of people.
Okay. I wonder what you'll miss most about Dominic Cummings.
Well, I've worked very closely with him, and he's been very effective at driving things forward. But I look forward to keeping that pace, that incredible pace that we've had to drive through this government, especially during the pandemic. And I can't wait till the day that we've been able to crack the pandemic, get life back to normal, and then pick up where we left off with the levelling up agenda, which is so important, that we were elected on, almost a year ago. We were having these discussions a year ago. It was an election campaign, and we were talking about levelling up across this country, and that matters enormously to me. And I know that it's something that really matters to people right across the country. So I can't wait to be able to be, to have the pandemic sorted, life as back to normal as possible, and really pushing forward on the levelling up agenda.
Okay, not missing much about him then. Let me just let you have the opportunity to once more offer your view on Donald Trump. He's tweeted, "We won't let a rigged election steal our country." That was the leader of a third world. We'd be going mad.
I'm concentrating on getting a vaccine over the line, delivering mass testing, getting life back to normal for people, making sure that people can have those, those loving interactions that make us human and make your life worth living, and that have been put on hold because of this pandemic. I've really got enough to deal with without having to respond to every single one of President Trump's tweets.
Okay, and if he's still in power, he certainly will be on the 1st of January. You haven't done a deal with the European Union. You're very happy for whoever, I don't know, whoever it might be, to do a deal with President Trump.
I'm terribly sorry, I didn't really understand the question, but if it was about the 1st of January...
Let me say it again for you then. No, I completely understand. My question is, if we haven't done a deal with the European Union by the 31st of December, we need to start looking at doing deals with others around the world, like the United States of America. Would you be happy for our government to be doing a deal with a man who says an election has been rigged?
Oh, I see. Firstly, we are absolutely ready for any outcome. We prefer, obviously, to leave with a deal, but our red lines haven't changed, and we're ready for any outcome. And then, of course, I'm keen that we do a trade deal with the United States, that's completely irrespective of who's in the White House, and I think it would be, I think that would be good for both the UK and for the United States. Now, I believe in free trade. I know that free trade increases prosperity. And so I hope that we can do trade deals around the world in the same way that we've already done a trade deal with Japan, and there's, I'm sure, many, many more to come.